Hey, I'm Dr. Patton. I will be your instructor for speech science this semester. I was going to say this semester, but hopefully it's the only semester you have to take it. That's both of our goal, right? Is that you only take it one time. So I'll be your instructor for speech science. Period. In a sense. Um, so really quickly, I wanted to first welcome you to the class. I want to tell you a little bit about what we're going to be doing in the class, and then um, walk you through some of how the class is laid out, and that's it. So it should be a pretty short video. So first, all of our kind of beginning, what you would typically do if you were in an in-person class. The first day or two of like going over the syllabus, getting to know each other, all that kind of stuff. I'm going to pack that into our first um, partial week, and then we're actually going to start with actual content for the class on Monday. So it'll come up Sunday night, Monday at midnight, something like that. It'll be there, ready for you to begin. Possibly earlier if I get impatient. I just post it, but whatever. Um, first, let's see. Let's talk to you about what we're going to learn. So this is all about speech science. And we're going to be talking about, we're going to go through sound waves. We're going to talk about what is sound, because speech is, obviously a type of sound. So we're going to have to start with the basics of sound. Then we're going to talk about a little bit about vocal folds, though most of that's covered in 310, and I think some of you probably took 310 with me, so we talked about that a little bit. We'll revisit briefly our old source filter model of speech, power source, sound source, and filter model of speech. So we're gonna talk about the sound source, the vocal folds, how they vibrate, how they how the waves from those are propagated through the air. And then we will talk about, in weeks after that, we're going to talk about the filter part of the source filter model, which is how that how the sound from the source becomes an actual speech signal. How is it shaped into a speech signal? Um, Within that, one of the main things that we're going to be doing is using software, like you probably saw in the announcement. Praat looks like Pratt, but it's Dutch. It's pronounced Praat. I'll probably just accidentally call it Pratt again because that's usually how I pronounce it. But so we'll use the Praat software. That'll be our main tool that we're going to use to analyze sound. They'll also show you Audacity and possibly Wavesurfer. Um, so after we get kind of our bearings with what we're looking at, you should be able to choose which of those three you like better. I will tell you off the bat that they each have different functionalities essentially. So Audacity is great for looking at the waveform of sound. It's good for looking at the spectrogram, but it's not so great for pulling things like formats. So it's more of an audio editing program. So if you're going to do any of that, that's probably why you might want to use Audacity. I really like its spectrogram, and I think you'll see why. It makes it more obvious what's going on. It's more fun to look at. I also really like the Fourier transform in it too. You probably don't even know what I'm talking about yet, and that's totally fine. Um, Pratt and Wavesurfer are kind of companions. They do sort of the same thing. Pratt has a lot of other analysis tools that go along with it, but we're not even going to talk about them. We're just going to look at the easy kind of Wavesurfer like portion of Pratt. I like Pratt. I like Audacity for editing. I like Pratt for analysis. And then Wavesurfer is also a common tool. So we're going to learn how to use those programs, and then I'm going to teach you what you're going to glean from those. So we're going to look at things like you can find someone's fundamental frequency, the pitch of their voice from those programs. You can look at the harmonics of the voice. You can look at the speech to noise signal, which can help you diagnose some pathologies. We'll also see how different formants, which are bands of intense energy, how those change with different speech sounds. So you'll actually be able to look at the digital representation of a sound, the spectral representation of a sound, and decide what it's saying without even listening to it. So that's one of the other things that you'll learn in the course of this class. Your textbook is this Preclinical Speech Science. This is the first edition, and you feel free to get the first edition. The one that I had to put on with the library, the ASU library, is the third edition. That's the current edition. And so you have to choose the current edition. I've tried to choose the old one, and it'll update it to the current edition, so it doesn't really matter. You can get the current edition if you want. You can get the second edition. You can get the first edition. I think the first edition, it's like $10 or $15 on Amazon right now. So, you know, it's a possibly a better choice depending on your financial situation. So, I mean, wherever you are, get the book that's right for you, as long as it's one of those three. Let's see. Anything else about that? Well, shipping is kind of weird right now, right? Everything's taken a little bit extra time. So I have the first few chapters that you'll need to read available as PDFs. Not all of them, because it takes a really long time to copy those, and I didn't want to do that. But I have the first few chapters that you're going to need, the first few reading assignments. So if you're having problems with shipping, let me know. And I've got PDFs for you. So I don't want you to have an issue of being able to succeed in the class because of slowdowns in shipping. Okay, how's the class going to run? So here's how the class is going to run. There's going to be a series of videos that you're going to watch. Some of them are from me. Some of them are from Dr. Deliri, and some of them are from Dr. Weinhold. We teach a lot of these things. Well, we all teach it independently, but there's videos available, and so we'll just pull some of the best ones that are available together and try to keep the classes a little bit more consistent that way. So you'll see a lot of me, but you'll also see a lot, some of Dr. Deliri and some of Dr. Weinhold in your videos as well. Once you've watched the videos, there's going to be a quiz every week. These quizzes, you can take them twice, just like if you've had any of my other classes before. The first time, what I want you to do is just take it. Don't use any notes or anything. It's open note, but don't use them the first time. I want you to test yourself and see if you can do it. It will tell you what you got wrong, and then for your second pass, pull your notes out and get all the questions right. But keep a note of the ones that you got wrong, because those questions are probably going to show up again on an exam. You're going to have an exam every 2 weeks-ish. You're going to have 1 week, first week, second week exam, third week, fourth week exam, and then it gets a little weird. It's going to go 5th week, 6th week, 7th week, 2 exams, because this is set up just like any other class that you might have taken with me, where there are 4 exams. Some of I have 5 or 6 in some of my other classes, but there's 4 exams, and we're going to keep 3 of them. So your lowest one is going to get thrown out. So what's going to happen is you're going to take exam 1, exam 2, exam 3. Hopefully you don't miss one. Though if you miss it, that's the one that gets dropped. So like, let's say you take 1 and 2, something happens and you miss 3. That's okay. You've still got 4 that's available. And so you can take, well, it actually doesn't make sense because 3 and 4 are going to be available at the same time. Let's say you miss 1. So you aren't able to take the first exam. You can take the other 3, and that's what makes up your score. That's the 300 points that your score is coming from. So you can miss an exam and not be penalized for missing that, really. If you take all 4, the lowest one is dropped. Cool? The other thing is, if you did really well on the first three and you really like your score already, then you have to take the fourth one. Although, I mean, if it was me, if you're asking me, I'd take the fourth one just in case. What if I accidentally got 100 and then my score is even higher? So, but it's up to you. The fourth exam is a cumulative exam, and it could be harder, but it's just going to revisit, all the same things that you've seen. And some of them might be even the same question, but some will be different. This class is going to require some math, but you will be able to use a calculator. And the formulas are going to be available to you. Like, make sure you write them down. I'll let you know which formulas you're going to need for exams. The formulas will either be on a sheet that you bring with you, a sheet of formulas, or I'll give them to you in the exam if you have to do some calculations. So have a sheet of formulas. If there's a formula that you need that we haven't talked about, or there's something special for a certain question, it'll be there. But most of them are going to be on a formula sheet that you need. Have your calculator. You're going to have ample practice to do any math question. So even if you're not good at math, it's not hard math. It's really easy math. Don't worry about it. It's more that you know the concept. So even if you're applying the right formula and you did the math totally wrong, you're not going to fail the question. It's more important that you know the concept of what you're doing than getting the math right. Though, of course, you get the math right. That's great, too. Okay, so I think that's the end of nuts and bolts of what we need to talk about. Isn't it? Yeah, I think so. Yes, I think that's about it. All right, so let's do this first assignment that's going to come up in this class. What I want to know is, what is your favorite book? I've got four that I'll show you. So the first one is House of Leaves. This is an amazing book. It's a horror novel, although it's not like your typical horror novel. It's not exactly like a Stephen King horror novel, though I do like Stephen King as well. It's actually kind of freaky. It's definitely weird. The way it's written looks like it was written by a totally crazy person. There's all sorts of weird, like, scanned in pictures of things and letters and pages where weird stuff like this happens in the middle of the book, where there's only a couple words on each page. So but then also there's somewhere it's just like totally crammed in. This is perfect. So, where the text is like totally crammed in. So it's like a puzzle to read, and it's freaky. It's amazing. The other one that I really like is Haunted by Chuck Palahniuk. Don't read this if you're offended by anything. This is probably the most offensive book ever. In fact, there's one story in there that when it's a collection of his short stories, and when he was going around reading these at like doing coffee shop readings, it was not uncommon for people to pass out during one particular short story in there because it was just so gross and disturbing. If you are intrigued by that, though, definitely read it, and you'll know the story when you get to it. I absolutely guarantee you. Okay, number 3, Scott Pilgrim. I mean, it's a whole series. Came out before the movie, though the movie was like really, really true to the book. That one's actually a graphic novel. But it's great. I mean, like, if you were into indie music in the early 2000s, it like so perfectly encapsulates all of the everything that era was. And then last is Dirk Gently's Holistic Detective Agency, which is like just totally the most ridiculous name for a thing. It's about this detective who doesn't do anything and charges his clients money for not doing anything, because if everything's connected, then he doesn't have to do anything to solve crimes, because he'll just, by being on the case, he'll get it. He's a terrible, he's a terrible detective. It's a comedy book, obviously. Okay, so what are yours? Let me know. And Sarah and I, your TA, will read through your responses, and we'll have a conversation with you. And then on Monday, your content will open and we'll begin this semester. Feel free to reach out to either of us by email, though we will also have office hours. I'm going to have mine in Slack. I think Sarah's are probably also in Slack, though they could be on Zoom. And of course, I'm willing to meet on Zoom as well if anybody would prefer that to Slack. If you don't know how to get to Slack, here is how you do it. So when you go to My ASU, instead of clicking on, if you click on our class, you're faced with two choices. One is you can go to the Canvas course, and the other one is you can go to the Slack workspace. So to get to Slack, just go to the Slack workspace. And that's pretty much it. Okay, cool. Good luck this semester. Like I said, feel free to reach out to me or your TA, and we'll help you. Don't stress about math if you're not good at it. You'll get through. I guarantee if you have a problem, it's not going to be the math. You're going to be just fine with the math. It'll be fine. And it's actually a really fun class. I think you'll enjoy it. Okay. All right. So I will see you on Canvas.